And they were a fairly interesting bunch, and they had all this, what are they going to do about the 25% of cuts that's happening, how on earth are they going to manage it? Well, you can imagine how welcome I was most of it, when I said that the statistics actually show that the number of deaths from fire and the amount of property damage from fire over the past 15 years is down 75%. So why on earth is your budget only down 25%? How does that work? You know, it seems to me 75% would be a reasonable increase, and the battle's been won. And they said, no, you don't understand, you don't understand. It's only that low because we are continually working at it. Because we're on the case every day, keeping the numbers low there. So I then said, well, it looks like the Quango that I run, keep the killer elephant paedophiles out of London.
Yeah!
Has a 100% success rate. 100% success rate. Absolutely successful in every regard. I want my funding propped up too. These are well-meaning people. They're just not willing to listen to the statistics. And then we turn to the coalition. Now, in the tedious media narrative, they can only see two sides to any story. Free market liberals are often positioned as being apologists for the coalition. Now, I have to concede, when the coalition came together, it was, broadly speaking, a good thing. It wasn't amongst the worst outcomes that may have happened. I knew that there would be a number of fairly enormous differences between my own sort of views and politics and those of the coalition government. David Cameron, for example, considers the greatest invention of the 20th century to be the National Health Service. I consider it to be the ready-rolled cigarette.
Yeah.
But it's getting increasingly difficult to apologise, I think, for the coalition. They seem to have done something to get through the message that cuts, reductions in public spending are necessary, but virtually nothing at all to suggest that they are desirable. And that's the case, I think, of free market liberals. This isn't just a question of turning off the tap now for a short period of time. We should, in a number of areas, be turning off the tap totally. And I remember this coming home to me a few months ago when I was on BBC Radio 4's You and Yours. I also take my life into my hands when I appear on this programme. I seem to be a sort of token free market liberal. And the decision has been made to close down the UK Film Council. Now, I concede, I can't remember the exact statistics, but there's something like with a loss of 75 jobs and perhaps £4 million is going to be saved, some such figure like that. And I said, terrific, more of this please, let's get on with it. And then Ed Vasey, the culture minister, popped up and said, well, we're very sorry we have to do this. It's terrible that we have to do this, but that's the way that the economy is at the moment. No suggestion at all that perhaps the state shouldn't be in the business of making movies. And I think ultimately the coalition will fail politically because they don't have the courage of their convictions in that area. You would think, from what you hear from some of the narrative, that the cuts are utterly dramatic, that the debt, the national debt, is going to be wiped out. Over a 5-year period, public spending is going to be cut by 3.5% in real terms. Tiny, microscopic. If I went to my barber and said my hair's far too long, I really cut it, just slash through it. Really do it, a once in a generation transformation. And he clipped off 3.5% of my hair in 5 years, I'd be wrong. £600 billion is being added to the national debt. The national debt's not being paid off. We're not even paying down the deficit. There will be a deficit in public spending this year, next year, and every year between now and the next general election. The only disagreement between the coalition and the official opposition is not how fast we pay off the mortgage, it's how fast are we adding to the mortgage. And the reason that I think people of the age in this room are so important is you have damn good grounds to complain, because you're going to be the people who are paying for it. You have to read The Guardian very closely to have found this statistics. They buried it into one tiny paragraph. But they found that 35% of people believed that the cuts were going too far, they were too big, they were too great. That 35% was down from 45% last November. 28% believed that the coalition had got it about right. 29% believed that the cuts should go much further.
Yeah.
That's a point of view that's represented by most free market liberals, that we need to do more to actually get into public consciousness. And we need to be quite robust in how we defend that and insist that that point of view is heard in public debate. I was referred to an episode of the Today programme, or Pravda as it's more commonly known, in which there are a number of people discussing this cut being made or that cut being made, and to Evan Davis's credit, really, I don't give him a huge amount of credit often, but one of the campaigners for increased public spending said, well, you have to understand, they're only doing this to make savings. What on earth is wrong with making savings? Why is this of itself a bad thing to do? And I think we need to start to change the narrative in that direction. From the point of view of the Institute of Economic Affairs, which I head up, our aim's always been to seek a long-term change in public opinion, a long-term change. We don't think that we can do a great deal to influence things on a day-to-day basis. We're not a lobby group, but we think we can over the long term, and that's why I'm delighted with the Freedom Forum being convened this weekend, and UK Liberty League will grow out of it. We'll continue our research programme. We will continue to do everything we can to get our ideas in an unalloyed fashion transmitted through the media, where our media profile has increased substantially over the past year. There's a wider task that goes well beyond the IEA that I hope that many of you will help with in the years to come. I often say to people, as a taxpayer, I'm depressed about the state of the economy, but as the director of a free market think tank, I'm delighted, because the difficult times that the United Kingdom faces at the moment provides a real opportunity for new and radical ideas. And I think there is emerging an interesting and exciting free market liberal movement that is cross-party and non-party, that involves people who are or have been involved in the Liberal Democrats or UKIP or the Conservatives, or have never been involved in any party at all. I often say to Nigel Farage, who's broadly a libertarian and the leader of the UK Independence Party, that I agree with him on absolutely everything, apart from the independence of the United Kingdom. But he is, in many ways, a full-blown libertarian. And I wonder whether we can't just learn from an American conservative a little bit, 100 years after Ronald Reagan's birth, because I think he got it about right. I think he got it about right and was able to frame arguments in very simple ways. He was able to explain the basic approach of government to the economy. He said it's extremely simple. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. If it stops moving, subsidise it. And he was exactly right in that regard. And him realising that back in the 1970s and articulating it in the 1970s was I think as pertinent today, more pertinent today than it was when Reagan said it. He also said in the start of his 1964 speech to the Republican convention that everyone was always telling him that there were no easy answers. There were no easy solutions. He said, and I have to concede they're right. There are no easy answers, but there are simple answers. And I think that free market liberalism probably is that simple answer. It needs to be researched, it needs to be developed, but it's simple. And if we can make a pure, straightforward case for free market liberal principles, I actually think that from out of this crisis, we may yet win. There's scepticism about states, there's scepticism about authority, and free market liberals have an answer to that. But I don't want to end on a quote from Ronald Reagan. I want to end on a quote from Rorschach from the movie Watchmen. Never compromise, even in the face of Armageddon. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for your time.